dealing with technical constraints or design know-how or political issues truly are secondary. And I'm not saying that they're easy or anything like that, but they're very much secondary. So I commend the Clean Rivers campaign and other groups that are here and that have been working for seeing an opportunity and acting upon that, standing up and saying, hey, we really have a chance here to do something different, something that's sustainable for our community. So I think that that's really wonderful. I have no worries for you all in moving forward with this type of work. What I thought I would share today with you, because I'm not sure of the background of all of you in the audience, I thought I would share some background around green infrastructure and some of the different types of design techniques. And then I thought I would share some examples of projects and communities that have been implementing green infrastructure, some of the perceived barriers that they have encountered that are truly just perceived barriers, and they really latch on and take the bull by the horns in terms of opportunities. So I'll be going over sort of that level of presentation. So let's see. So again, I'm going to be going back and forth here on the flipping around of things. So the first thing I wanted to do is the whole green infrastructure terminology that you're probably familiar with. The green infrastructure really was the term tagged more by land conservancy type groups that were looking more at networks of big open spaces, wetlands, riparian areas, green belts, and things like that. And a lot of the definitions that you'll see in this one is from the Conservation Fund was talking about connecting communities or connecting places. So that was really a theme of these open spaces. And so I just went and grabbed some images. This is from Maryland, looking at creating hubs and corridors. This example is very interesting. I have this in my resources. This is done by Fish and Wildlife, where they have a green infrastructure vision for the greater four-state area around Chicago. And what they do in the Forest Service, they have this vision for all this interconnected area of forested land. And this one individual, I mean, working with some of the staff, this one individual is working with over 480 municipalities, trying to ensure that each one of those municipalities is considering this vision in all the city regional planning that they're doing. So it doesn't relate exactly to what we're talking about today, but it's very close in terms of how do you impart a vision that might go across an entire region, and how do you start working with different communities? How do you get across that barrier to say, oh, there's too many communities, there's too many states, there's too many entities to work with? Well, here's an example of an individual that's making it happen. So you might want to look that up, and I put that again in the resources slide. Oh, is it not? Or do I have to have it high enough, perhaps? There, better? Maybe I just have to talk like this and sit down and flip the thing. So again, if it doesn't, she was nice, but she was really eccentric. So now, really, the way that we're going to be, and the way I'm going to be talking about this presentation, green infrastructure, which I'm going to call green stormwater infrastructure, to designate it from the other slide, is more about storm water management and all the different types of designs and applications that you can have when you're thinking about how you manage stormwater. And so this slide is just depicting different kinds of applications anywhere when you're kind of moving, thinking about suburban areas where you've got highway infrastructure, areas of industry. This is a green loop that I'll talk about later. A commercial bioretention swale, suburban application of a bioretention system, ultra-urban design of bioretention, and I'll talk about bioretention, what that is. Chicago's green road. So when we're talking about green stormwater infrastructure in this context, in this presentation, we're talking about stormwater management and all the different types of designs. And it doesn't detract from, you can still think, as many of you are, in this very regional context as you're moving from out and maybe very, areas that aren't very developed, agriculture, and as you start moving into your ultra-urban area, you can have a vision for a regional kind of green infrastructure system that transverses this entire area. And I think of it, green stormwater infrastructure as all the land use decisions and regulations and projects that really mimic natural hydrologic processes, and I'm going to talk about what that means as well. Mimics natural hydrologic processes so we can support our environmental and community objectives. So that's the context for the green stormwater infrastructure. This slide is to talk about the why. Why do we care? Why do we care about green stormwater infrastructure? What's the big deal? Many of you are obviously very versed in what's going on with your combined sewer issues. But at any level, when you're talking about stormwater management, what we're trying to do is deal with a landscape, and this can just be any hypothetical landscape, where we have a natural condition. We have natural processes, natural biological processes, natural hydrologic processes. So when it rains, you get water that's hitting and getting canopy interception. The water moves very slowly through the leaves and branches. There are studies of oak trees that show that it can slow the water. An oak tree can slow the water down by 40% before it gets to the ground. So besides the uptake that tree does. So you get all this slowing of water, you get evapotranspiration of water, and you get a lot of infiltration of the water, either into kind of a shallow layer that might move in that shallow layer toward a creek and help feed healthy, good water to a creek, or you might get water that goes deeper into a groundwater aquifer. And so these are all important processes on the watershed, and we don't have natural systems, even in pre-human Pittsburgh area, do not generate a lot of runoff. As the bigger of a storm you get more surface runoff, and you get flash flooding in areas like some of the Southwest. But we used to have this nice duff layer, organic matter that would fall from the trees, and little tiny storms. There's scientific literature that says it's really hard to actually see water running on a surface, across a surface in a natural condition, which is very different than from when we go and develop. This could be a commercial development, this could be, they're just showing a house here. But we take out the vegetation, we add the impervious surfaces such as rooftops and pathways, driveways, streets, and all of a sudden, we're losing water from that landscape, and we're sending higher volumes of water, and that water's moving faster. And it's either going into a stormwater system, going to a combined system, it's discharging to a receiving water body with all its pollutants. Maybe it's an outfall that goes directly to a creek and it's causing erosion. And so we get water quality impacts because of that. What's really important to remember why we want to do green stormwater infrastructure is also that there's something important about how this landscape functions. There was important value in that piece of land and what it provided ecologically. And when we develop and when we change the hydrology, we lose things from that site. And so we talk a lot in California now, the work that I've been doing is not only how do we deal with stormwater because we don't want to have the impacts of the receiving water, but also we want to maintain functions in the watershed that are so important for ecological health, for all sorts of different air quality, habitat, animals, humans. There was the National Science Foundation put together a blue ribbon panel a few years ago to look at stormwater management in the nation. These are all people who had been doing stormwater management all their careers, decades. Cumulatively, they have hundreds of years of experience. To look at the state of stormwater management. And one of the things that they concluded is that conventional stormwater management, we convey water through pipes, we use vaults, etc., has not been making our water quality better. I mean, sometimes we're able to keep some of that water out through storage, but ultimately we still have polluted water, we still have these incredible volumes that are going to the receiving waters. Their conclusion though is there just has to be a better way. And they really put forward that green infrastructure, also the term low impact development is used interchangeably, that green infrastructure is really something that as a society we need to embrace because we're not getting there with conventional management, nor are we getting all the social and economic environmental benefits. We're losing out here. So these are scientists who've been doing this a long time saying, we got to do better. So we get here some, lovely, I didn't pick anything from this region, a combined sewer overflow sign from Peoria, an overflow event in the Midwest. These are all California, trash. This is a creek. Pretty common look for a creek in California. That's the creek, and there's the riparian zone. And then things like your swimming advisories, you can follow pollutants and bacteria. So we're just not hitting it right. So how is green stormwater infrastructure different than conventional infrastructure? These four are what I think are the main points. Now I'll have pictures. But a lot of it is about trying to establish and maintain something about that natural condition that already existed, and doing it in a way, designing it in a way that's very different from how we do conventional design. Things that sound very foreign to most of us civil engineers, decentralized designs, and planning for projects, city and regional planning that looks at zoning and site requirements that are very different because you're integrating stormwater considerations in the very early phases of a project design. It's not just where you hand over to an engineer, here now you've designed everything, now deal with stormwater design. So let me go through a few of these. So we just talked about mimicking the natural processes. So natural water processes, to think ecologically, are more about you're infiltrating, so in a natural landscape, right, you're infiltrating water, you're storing it in some way, meaning it's staying on site, even in depressional areas, or it's staying in the soil, or it's staying in the tree, but somehow you're keeping that water on site, and evapotranspiration. These are all really emphasized. The designs that have bioretention, and I'll get to these different tools of bioretention. Bioretention tends to have soils and vegetation as the emphasis, where water is coming in and it's being designed so that you infiltrate stormwater. These are sort of the go-to designs, those landscape type designs, because you're sort of checking all the boxes when you think ecologically, because you're getting the plants, you're getting the air quality, you're getting the habitat, you're getting healthy soil, and you're getting stormwater management. So these are designs that are meant to mimic those watershed processes, so we're having our landscape function more like it did before we all got here, and we're helping to reduce the flows that are leaving the site, heading off to do damage and carrying pollutants to our receiving waters. Another difference is the site design and the decentralized aspect of green infrastructure. This is a project that my team did in Seattle, Washington. It was called the C Street Project, Street Edge Alternative. This was a complete retrofit of a residential block where the street was torn out, and we put in a system of bioretention swales to manage the stormwater. But when we did the design, we weren't just thinking of these areas. We were thinking about what are other design things that we can do to help minimize the amount of runoff that's generated by this street. So we narrowed the street. This caused such heartache with our transportation engineers that the mayor finally, this is one of those where you bring in a mayor or somebody to say, okay, all city departments must work together for this design. And we finally wore everybody down in transportation engineering until they actually got very excited about it. This is only an 18-foot wide road in a residential area, which is very narrow and would be unheard of in many situations. We had to have the fire department come out, make sure that they could drive this curvilinear road, that they could come through. And in fact, let's see, there's some modular area here so the trucks can actually get on and drive if they need to in an emergency. So it wasn't just thinking about what's this green infrastructure design piece, but it was thinking about the entire site design. Some of the areas in California now only allow sidewalks on one side of the street in kind of sleepy residential areas, because you don't need all that impervious surface in a very kind of sleepy residential area. If you've got a school nearby or you get on a busier street, you're going to need sidewalks on both sides. But otherwise, people are going to be able to get back and forth on one sidewalk, so you reduce the amount of impervious surface, the amount that's going to generate runoff, by only having sidewalks on one side. And the developers love it because it costs less for the project. So infrastructure tends to decentralize, meaning here's a parking lot design where you've got pervious pavement and you've got bioretention areas all throughout so that the water is actually being graded and dispersed throughout the site. You have a much better chance of actually infiltrating the small storms, which we'll talk about in a moment, and dealing with the water at the source if you decentralize the designs. If you were trying to move all the water over to a pond, well, it's probably not going to be very attractive, and you're probably not going to be able to infiltrate the amount of water that you would like to infiltrate. And then conventionally, this would all, if you weren't doing a green design, it would all be going to one inlet, or one or two inlets right into the storm system. So these are designs that are trying to get to keep that water on site. The decentralized aspect of green infrastructure is one of the hardest lessons when I'm working with engineers and planners and others, because it's just so easy to think of sending the water to one place, a pond or a pipe or a vault. And so thinking at it at a site level, or thinking about it in a subdivision, or thinking about it across a city or across a region is a very challenging concept for people. But decentralized is very important. And then volumes from the small storms. That's what we're usually trying to manage with green stormwater infrastructure. And it's because over the course of a year, it's the small storms, cumulatively, that carry most of the volume on an annual basis. So if you can manage the small storms, you're keeping most of the water on site. So the big storms, those probably generated runoff naturally, and it's just too hard to manage them with these small little techniques. So the small storms carry most of the volume on an annual basis, so there's a focus there, and they carry most of the pollutant load. So every time it rains in a small storm, especially some of the first storms, it carries most of the pollutants that are going to run off, let's say, a parking lot. Big storms carry pollutants too, but again, there are more small storms than large storms. So we really focus on small storms that are managed on site. So this is a Chicago project that I like to share, because this is a parking lot, and what's neat about it is this water is staying on site. So it would have been routed off site to the street, but they've got permeable pavement, and then for whatever can't be handled with the permeable pavement, they have these curb cuts that go into a vegetated area. So all that small storm is staying on site, it's being infiltrated on site, and only the really large storms are then heading off into the public infrastructure system. Small storms, manage them on site. The other difference with green stormwater infrastructure as compared to conventional are the other benefits that come with it. And I have some examples, so I'm not going to give them right now, but they are things such as habitat, birds, etc. Water supply issues where, wow, we want that water, we don't want to send that water off site, it's a valuable resource. Air quality, especially for a lot of the vegetative designs. Energy savings, climate, global warming issues, and then community health and well-being. So, and these are very difficult to quantify, so oftentimes when we're looking at a conventional design versus a green design, it's really hard to build in the value of these types of benefits in a quantitative manner. Most decision-making, right, is based on how much things cost. So we'll talk more about that. So now I want to cover some of the tools, some of these actual designs a little bit more. I'll give you some examples. This is the green stormwater infrastructure toolbox. Bioretention, landscaping, bioretention more engineered, passive landscape design, rain barrel cisterns, green roofs, different types of permeable pavements, and the actions that are more site design. They're not maybe structural, but reducing impervious surface is a big tool in the toolbox, and impervious disconnection, and I'll cover these. And they all are doing one or more, they're all supporting one or more of these watershed processes that we're trying to protect, and things that help us to keep stormwater from heading off to the rivers, lakes, and streams. So bioretention. So bioretention is the design. Often these are engineered if you have to hit some regulatory number of performance. adapted or able to sustain some, thrive, have level of health when it gets saturated. And let's see, I'm going to turn here so I can point at some. So this is a curb bulb extension, and this is where water comes in along the street and enters and goes in and infiltrates. In a street design where you've got room to do that type of design where parking is not so much of an issue. Oftentimes it's in residential areas. This is a similar concept, but it's where you have a lot of parking, more urban. It's a planter design. The water is coming in as well as from the street as well as from the sidewalk. You also have a similar design on a residential property. The water's coming down from the roof and going into this planter box before it exits. Same type of concept, water coming in from a parking lot at a mall in Seattle that is infiltrating water. This same design, kind of in a more rural setting, and one that's at a home. And you can see the overflow for that, so you'll flood the property and water coming in from the street. So these are all bioretention, with retention being the key word. Because there are designs where the water is allowed to just flow through the soil and plants, and it's treating it, but it's not really keeping water. And what we want when we're trying to do volume controls, we want to keep the water, some of the water on site, so retention is a very key term. Different types of permeable surfaces. And, you know, Jen, is it okay if I ask for a couple of, I'm afraid that I'm going to get so far along without questions that, does anybody have questions on some of these? Because we'll forget by the time we get to the end. Yeah?
When you talk about handling the water on site, how do you deal with the freeze-thaw cycle?
So some of the designs, we were talking earlier today, like permeable asphalt, not maybe so great in your region where you're dealing with freeze-thaw and you're not going to be able to infiltrate. You know, you have to think about, especially permeable pavements, are you actually going to be able to infiltrate the water? Some of these systems don't operate that well, you know, during those times where you're going to have snow and your precipitation is solid, right? So you have to wait until there's some of that thawing out, some of that water that can go in. It'll be important for this region and regions on the East Coast have plant palettes that are more designed to be able to deal with the cold water and the snow conditions. But when you do get into some of these permeable designs, you have to make sure that they're going to be able to function in a freeze-thaw. So you're still waiting for that water when it melts to be able to get into whatever facility that you're designing. And if you have one like a permeable asphalt that maybe is not the best, you just don't use it.
But I'm worried about the idea of the water getting in and freezing and then melting and then freezing again.
In like the bioretention design, you mean so for?
Over a period of just a few days, it's going to freeze, it's going to melt, freeze, melt, freeze.
That puts a lot of pressure on the materials and it'll fracture.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, it does, and the engineering specifications, of which there are many on the East Coast, are designed to deal with that. So my design that I have in California might not quite have the same specifications of which you're going to have here to be able to deal with some of those issues. So, you know, there are a lot of states that are doing this where it snows and doing it successfully, but their engineering specifications are going to vary a bit. Yeah.
An allied issue would be salt. When you have curb cuts directing water from places that might be salted, sidewalks or roads, that will certainly affect plant choice if there are indeed plants that can survive.
Absolutely. And so there are plants that maybe deal with almost more estuarine, salty type, brackish type water, and some you might not be able to get the range. You might not be able to get the range of planting palette that, you know, here in Portland where they don't salt, they get this, you know, wonderful array of all sorts of different plants that may not work if you're going to have salt. So there certainly are different design considerations when you're in a cold environment, just like we have different design when we're in arid environments. Everything has to be tailored and adapted a little bit differently to still get that same function and performance and not kill the plants. So you know, those are very valid questions for the region. Was there anything else? Yes.
Permeable asphalt, I've heard a couple people say that that's good for parking lots, getting parking spaces, but because it is porous and it moves around a lot, it really can take traffic even at 35
we haven't seen a lot of permeable surfaces, whether they're asphalt or otherwise, in driving lanes, just because of the uncertainty. I have one project that I'll share where it is in the roadways, actually with the concrete. And that's because we definitely have lots of examples now of being able to tolerate a load, heavy vehicles, but lots of heavy vehicles, miles per day, vehicles per day sort of thing is not really tested. So you don't see a lot of examples out there yet where they're using a permeable type surface for a roadway. Just not quite sure yet. And if you can meet your requirements or what you're trying to achieve in sort of a smaller design, you may not want to put the expense out there of something that's going to be across an entire roadway as well. So how much of this do you need to do in order to protect those watershed processes that you're trying to protect? So roadways are a bit of a question mark. So
On roadways, we have a lot of brick and cobblestone streets.
I've been experiencing that.
Besides being like speed bumps,
Yeah.
are they permeable? Or would they fit the definition of permeability?
Well, we had a few like that in Seattle. When they start cracking, that's what the pavers are, which essentially the open cracks.
Right.
Now, what they have in them that's different is, the designs all have some sort of aggregate underneath, whether it's a paver or an asphalt on the surface. There's some kind of aggregate that's giving structural stability to the roadway, but it's also designed to do pollutant removal and storage of water. So even though you may be getting some water in, it's not going to be as optimal as if it was designed for the storage. But, better. Some of those little cracked streets and some of those little streets that are holding little puddles of water, sometimes not so bad. Yeah.
On the design side, when you're focusing on small swim events, do you also have to consider the big events?
So
Is it a two-part process? Or
it's trying to get people to be integrated in that thinking, because usually what you'll have is a small storm event type of requirement or goal environmentally, and you may have a large storm event requirement for flood control in the severe region. So people try to leverage what they can with small designs, hopefully try to decrease the size of vaults and ponds that they're going to have for flood control, but they generally have to do something around flood control. So yes, multitask. Okay, I'm going to move on a little bit and then we'll ask more. The other thing is sisters. So harvest and reuse is another type of design that we'll talk about some of the benefits. But this is where stormwater, we're valuing it more as just a waste product. And in fact, I think even the term stormwater has a nuance of not being very valuable. It's rainwater, right? And so it's just the terminology that we use. But there are a lot of examples, and I'll use one of these and a couple others to discuss benefits, but where people are in their green stormwater infrastructure toolbox are capturing water. And this may be because they want to reuse that water for some reason, or maybe some of the designs that I was just sharing, like permeable pavement or bioretention, that don't work for some reason. Maybe there's technical constraints for infiltration, or maybe the freeze-thaw cycle or something like that. And storage of that water is maybe preferable, or something that people want to do as part of how they're managing the building. So that's just another type of design. And then another type of design is green roofs, and we all love seeing green roofs. They're almost the order I'm going in some of these is the order of use, because green roofs tend to be expensive. There are some communities, there are some countries, Germany, they have some areas in Germany where you're required to put in a green roof for all the projects. But this is a project that used to be down the street from me when I lived in Seattle. It's the Ballard Library. The library system got a bunch of funding to improve their buildings, and they put in a green roof. And what's kind of neat about it is this educational project. So there's this little area right here that's this. So when you're at the library, you can go up to the top, and they've got meteorological information, and you can look at the green roof and learn about the green roof, look at the weather conditions. It's very educational. And we get snow. There's a green roof in Jackson Hole, Wyoming that's been functioning wonderfully for years. That's kind of a sod-looking thing. So you see green roofs in all sorts of different climates. Another toolbox. The green roof's sort of similar to the previous pavement. There's usually plants and some sort of a growing medium, soil, and then almost like these egg-shaped carpets with tell, usually liners to protect the building. There are so many vendors and different people who are creating green roofs. There's lots of different designs, so this is just one company that does a design, but they're basically all the same. Plants, soil medium for the plants, some kind of storage area underneath that often looks like the eight carton kind of thing. This is a green roof that's the Ford Motor Company, and this is one where they have 10 acres of green roof and they have other green infrastructure elements that they've integrated. It's a huge site. It's a 600-acre site with 10 acres of green roof. That's all this area, some area back in here. This is not, and then there's other areas it's just not in the picture. And so that's, here's a large scale type of green roof design, obviously on an industrial complex.
Question, was that a retrofit or all?
That was a retrofit. Yeah, so sometimes it's hard to tell when you can get a green roof on because of if you've already got structural integrity in the roof and you're adding the weight that comes with these, sometimes it's not going to work. But this was a retrofit. Battle Library was a retrofit, so it's possible to do some retrofits. So this is big scale, but it's also, it's sneaking in green infrastructure wherever you can. And this, I just wish I had better, these were my pictures, so the old iPhone wasn't that great, but this is just a half a block from where I work. And there's a 4-lane intersection here, and this is all vegetated, it's tiered. This is a green roof right here. I was trying to get a better picture, but I have to be in the middle of the intersection to do it. So it's a little green roof building on the corner, and let's see what else. There's another picture in the sort of in the rain again. It's sort of that vegetated area. You can see where it's at in the intersection, and here's the green roof portion of it, and it's a gas station. It's the car wash of the gas station. It's the best looking little car wash in a gas station that you'll ever see. So it's a green roof. It's built into the environment. A lot of it was done for visibility and aesthetics. So when you're in that intersection driving, you're not seeing this car wash, but it's functioning to provide a lot of those, infiltration and watershed processes that we're talking about. And it's a freaking little, car wash area. So be on the other side, they're
Are they capturing the water or reusing it?
They're not reusing it. It's functioning generally as the landscape for the entire area. So even some of the more intense rain events, it ends up getting down in this area. I've gone out there in some bigger rain events. They get in California a lot of high intensity, short duration events, and I haven't seen the water running off from the site. It's been pretty good. I don't think it was designed to meet a specific goal, but it's doing its thing in terms of volume. So big industrial Ford Motor Company, and you can fit these in into little tiny areas of the community. Gas station, disconnection. This is the easiest if you can do it. So this is where you're just disconnecting the downspout areas and letting the water go to a vent. So the downspout is not going to the storm drain system or the combined system. It's just leaving. You're just simply disconnecting and letting the water go into a landscaped area for infiltration or storage. So home, this is out by a Target Next store where they're taking roof runoff all around the building. Is this little design. And they've got a planter box style infiltration. This is Wally Parking Garage in Seattle, downspout disconnect that they're doing. And this is just the concept of disconnection outside of the downspouts, where when you want to do a design, it's not have your drop of water hit the roof and then have a straight path of impervious surface out to the street or out to the combined system or sewer system. What you want to do is disconnection, where maybe you just simply take the parking lot, design it angled over, and you have some vegetated area so that water from that roof isn't just immediately making a beeline from the roof to the street. So the concept of disconnection isn't just downspout disconnection, it's about disconnecting impervious surface on a site so that it's not getting to a roadway or anything any questions, because I'm going to go over some of the perceived barriers and some of the examples and ways that communities have been dealing with things. I just wanted to show you sort of the toolbox, the kinds of actions that we use for low impact development or green infrastructure. So any questions? Yeah.
Just briefly for bioretention, I guess one advantage of the conventional stormwater management is since it's a fast moving water that's going all towards one place, and bioretention where it's slower moving water that's sourced locally. Especially if you have bioretention that's staging, are there any public health concerns with vector-borne disease, especially horizontal viruses?
With what now?
Vector-borne disease, like mosquito.
Oh, so, good question. So the designs that we have that I'm familiar with on the West Coast, and many of them that I've looked at elsewhere in the United States, usually have from the public health department, there's a drawdown time of how long you can have water for vector control, for mosquito breeding, West Nile virus issues. And so oftentimes it's 72 hours is the maximum time before you have to get that water down to the surface soil level, so that you're not allowing that time for mosquito breeding. And that's built into the requirements, the design parameters around bioretention. So you're right, you don't want to have standing water for a long time, not only because it might be a nuisance or not be good for the plant health, but you don't want to create mosquito breeding habitat. Good question. So one of the things that we hear, and I heard in Seattle, was that green infrastructure doesn't work in the urban environment. Everything's too constrained. We're trying to deal with smart growth and infill types of objectives, and we just can't fit it in there. So I thought I would share some designs that kind of bash that being used effectively in many urban areas. So here's a bioretention design in Portland. This is downtown Portland. So this is within an area that's very urban, kind of townhomes, businesses, kind of mixed use. The roadway off to the side, and they've got systems of bioretention systems that's in that area. I would point out that Portland, having done this for so long, they're a little bit more brave. See this? Can you see this sort of drop off in their system? So most municipalities will not go for that right now because of the perceived public safety, people tripping in that. Portland has gotten past that a long time ago. They've also gotten past the thing where people don't like to see standing water, which I always found really amazing to deal with in Seattle, where it rains, all these places where it rains so much, nobody wants to see water. And so we're going to get people used to the fact that there would be water and standing water, and only for a while because of the vector control, but we're going to start seeing water again in our environment. And Portland's moved a little bit forward in how much water they'll hold kind of in a public space. This is a cistern in Santa Monica. This is their property line right here. So they're fitting in this narrow little cistern that they use for kind of non-potable gray. They mix it with their gray water sources. They use it for toilet flushing, and they vegetated over it. This is only for aesthetic; it's not function. But they have this very narrow little cistern that they can fit into a very confined area, constrained area. This other is just integrating green stormwater infrastructure into architectural design. Can you make that part of the design for a new office building or a new living complex, and just integrate that into the aesthetic of the design? So these are just some examples of things kind of fitting into a tight space. This is an example of bioretention and cistern storage area in Seattle, and I was trying to step over here so I can see it. So I was trying to show, this is on a slope, it's about a 7-degree slope here, so I was trying to take a picture from both sides. And what this is, the water comes off of the roofs and partially from the street and the sidewalk, and it's going into a system of bioretentions and cisterns that's kind of stepping down in a cascade fashion, but it's downtown Seattle where it's very tight, poor soils, and a slope. And so it's just an example. This is a little pump. It's part of an art thing, so you can go in and actually pump some of the water that's in the cistern and feed it into these cascading swales. So it's an educational component. Here's just more examples of fitting into a very urban environment. This is the Wally parking garage in Seattle, retrofitted in this very design, all retrofit. And you can see where it can really, the opportunity a lot is integrating with landscaped areas. That's really kind of the main zone or area where you start looking at green infrastructure. This is an example of looking at urban retrofit. So this is a Northgate Mall redevelopment that was completed in the northern part of Seattle. And what it was a 600-acre site overall tributary area. Old mall, not really visited very much, and it was going to get redeveloped. And so the community saw an opportunity. There was some Thornton Creek Water Quality Group, there were some schools, there were some groups that said, oh, we're going to redevelop, there's a chance for green stormwater infrastructure. And so what they did was they were going to put in all this mixed-use housing, cineplex, kind of nursing facilities, all sorts of things. And they decided to start building in a green infrastructure channel as part of the design. And the developer didn't really want to do it, and our mayor played hardball. He said, if you want to do the redevelopment, this is what we want this design. We want the sustainability design as part of this. And they went for it because it was going to be very economically viable for them, what they were going to generate in terms of this mall. And so here's a picture as it was, kind of the early stages of being built. Here's all the housing that you can see. Very high density, mixed use. Here's after completion, so all these pathways that go around. It's this incredible amenity now to this community down there. There are elderly people who don't walk very far, and they walk around here. There are children that walk around here. There are people that go to the movies on the other side of the buildings, and they'll sometimes walk through here. Just another picture. Some people know that it's a stormwater management, and some people don't. And one of the things about this design is that there is a creek underneath this area. And with all the development and work that was done over the years, the creek was so far down that people wanted to daylight the creek, and it just wasn't going to be possible. It was like 35 feet down. So instead of being able to daylight, it was trying to recreate the function, the connection for people to that system. So they were very successful. Okay, small actions can't provide big benefits. Small actions really can make a difference. So this is the City of Portland Downspout Disconnect program. And I'm going to do my little eccentric thing because I'm starting to get a neck thing walking over, and I'm just weird that way. So I'm going to look over here so I can point and eat at the same time. So this is City of Portland, combined sewer issues, Columbia River, Willamette River, and they were looking at where could they potentially do downspout disconnection. They worked with their Department of Ecology to come up with a plan looking at green infrastructure design, and they decided and agreed upon a new CSO control plan that would include GSI. So I love this statement. This is in their ordinance. Can you all read that? Do I need to read it out loud? I think you can all read it. The downspout ordinance was to look at reducing the cost of water containment and storage and treatment for their citizenry. And so that was the purpose of doing this. Bringing in sustainability, but lowering costs from the conventional type of infrastructure. That was one of their goals. And this project, they did an incredible amount of outreach on this project. The city, and from the time period that's listed there, they disconnected an incredible number of downspouts from residential, some commercial properties. And you can see there, what they achieved was 1.2 billion gallons of water per year removed from the combined system just through the downspout disconnect program. And what was amazing about it was the outreach effort. I was telling people earlier today, I knew about that program, not so much because of the stormwater element of it. I knew about it because you got $54. If you wanted to do a downspout disconnect and you were in that zone, you would do the downspout disconnect, the city would come and look at it, and they'd write you a check for $54. That's not small change, that was pretty good. If you didn't want to do that yourself, the city had a program where they would do it free of charge, and they had a whole bunch of contractors that would contractors out there that would come and do the work. They would get paid by the city. And then the contractors helped to advertise the program more because they were saying, hey, hire us, we'll come and do the downspout disconnect. And so the word really got out in terms of that. Hey. So it was really a win-win for everybody. They made huge downspout disconnect volumes. They got the community engaged. Volunteer groups, different environmental volunteer groups would come and do the downspout disconnect. It was this huge effort that resulted in all this benefit they got. They're just, not everybody did this wonderful little salmon design. It's super fancy, but it's really cool. And then they did a lot of other programs for their CSO. They didn't just do downspout disconnect. They did bioswales, bioretention areas, and they did large tunnel projects. In fact, some of their big tunnel projects won some civil engineering awards. So it wasn't the only thing that they did, but they did not have to do some of their larger projects because of the downspout disconnect. And you wanted to make a comment, right?
And just to say that they were able to mobilize those resources, $54, the contractor, because it was an investment that they had net gain on.
And they weren't quite so sure they were going to be able to pull it off, and apparently it went beyond their expectations of what they got out of it. Yeah?
I feel like it's a little unfair to bring up Portland as an example since they have such amazing soils.
Oh, they're on sand, for sure.
And
It's
the groundwater
beautiful.
table is 40, 50 feet below the surface. They can infiltrate valley. And there's no problem. We don't have that.
No, you don't. And that's very true. So point being that you can look at small designs and do a feasibility and look, do you think it's actually going to give you any benefit cumulatively? And that's when you start thinking, okay, if it gives a cumulative benefit and we can actually technically achieve it, is it something that we embrace and try to do? There's a downspout disconnection program in Seattle that I'll mention a little bit later where they don't have the perfect sand. They've got soils that are a bit more challenging. They don't have this type of participation rate, but they still felt that what they were going to be able to get from that was going to be valuable in terms of their CSO, their combined system program. But you're right, that part of Portland is on sand. All sorts of the designs work beautifully there. But I do like the story of it, of the cumulative, the community action. And once they decided they thought something small could possibly work, how they mobilized to make it happen. Yes?
Can you give an idea, like I just don't know how much 1.2 billion gallons is. Can you give an idea of how that compares to like the total flow that their sewer system would manage?
They were at the time, back in '91, they were trying to deal with about 7 billion gallons. So it was pretty substantial for what they had to do. And that's why they needed the other projects, the other infrastructure efforts to deal with the rest. So it's going to vary, by community, by technical feasibility. Is it going to give you enough to make a difference, and does the cost pencil out for doing it?
Do you have any idea overall what percentage of the excess water is handled through green infrastructure?
In Portland, I don't know that proportion. And the other number I don't know, I can get a hold of my colleague in Portland, is how many CSOs were they able to, the combined overflows were they actually able to get rid of just based on that. So I just got the volume and knowing that it's in the context of about 7 billion that they had to deal with overall. So I've been telling people they've got some of the, because Portland has been doing this for so long, they've got more information online about some of their incentive programs and tree programs and all sorts of things that they're doing to try to make the infrastructure work.
I have a question.
Yeah.
At least around here, there are complaints about damp basements, even with a lot of downspout and sewers. I was just wondering if that's something that is a factor in terms of making sure that in some cases maybe there's extra drainage, like bridge drainage or something, that would make sure that you didn't have damp basements as a result.
So usually the guidance for like downspout disconnect is have you move the water a little bit farther out, or French drains or something to infiltrate. We have found with some of the downspout disconnect, maybe primarily in those areas where there's sand, that people actually start having less basement flooding with some of the bioswales and disconnection program. It was the water is ultimately being infiltrated over all of the site rather than having that excess sitting there really close. So we haven't, I want to find examples where it has not been a good idea to put it close where it's failed or where somebody's basement has had a problem because of that. I haven't found one. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but so far, all the projects that I've been looking at sort of nationally, the downspout disconnect doesn't seem to be contributing to basement flooding. Now, if you are, I would get concerned if you are trying to manage a really large roof area, let's say, and you're sending it all to one downspout. Then you're sending a whole lot of water just in one spot that then is potentially infiltrating right next to the structural features that are there. So it's back to that decentralized. You don't want to have everything going to one downspout.
Well, it works the other way too. I mean, there are houses that their basements flood because there's so much water in the sewer and